Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here tonight. We are joined by a very special guest. We have Rabbi Ellie Abadie with us, and we're also joined by Jared and Kane. Elie, it's a huge honor to have you on the Open Peace podcast. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Why don't we start off by telling our viewers a little bit about yourself, and that would be great for a start.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Jared, and thank you, Kane, for inviting me to participate in your podcast. Well, my history, there is a brief history and there is a long history. I'll try to make the long one medium brief.
Okay.
My ancestors really came from Spain. They were part of the Sephardic diaspora over 1,000 years ago. They were part of the expulsion of the Jews from Spain in 1492. They traveled throughout southern Europe, from Spain to Provence, from Provence to Italy, from Italy to the other countries. You have Yugoslavia, Greece, Turkey, and ended up in Aleppo, Syria, the beginning of the 1800s, where they settled there until 1948, where there was at the heel of the establishment of the State of Israel and also at the partition plan at the United Nations. The Arab mobs and really 10 countries rose against the Jewish communities, and one of them was in Aleppo, Syria, burned synagogues, burned Torah scrolls, books, Torah books. My mother and father, who lived right next door to the main synagogue, they saw how the Arab mobs climbed the fence of the synagogue. They went in. They took the Torah scroll outside, they burned them, they even carried the rabbi and dumped him in the street. And then they followed that by going into Jewish businesses, looting them, burning them. Unfortunately, there were people that were killed and people that were mutilated, maimed, and injured. My mom saw that the next house that they were going to climb into was my parents' house, as they lived right next door to the synagogue. My mom took 3 older siblings, gathered them, ran back from the back door of the house and never returned. And she escaped to Lebanon, after which my father followed suit with difficulty, almost being killed at the border by a Syrian soldier. And finally, he made it safe to Lebanon, where they lived for 22 years. And I was born in Lebanon after 12 years of living there. In Lebanon, at the beginning, it was kind of quiet and peaceful. However, we knew that there is a time clock on the presence of a Jewish community in Lebanon. Of course, we were Syrian refugees. Even though I was born in Lebanon and the rest of my siblings were born in Lebanon, they were always considered refugees. They were never given a Lebanese citizenship. So we were refugees. That we couldn't leave the country because no other country will take us, because they would have to take us as refugees. If you are a refugee, they will take you as refugees. We could not go on a vacation, tourism to Europe or any other country because we could not leave the country. We can leave. Lebanon would be glad to get rid of us. However, there were no country that is willing to receive us because we did not have citizenship. So we lived there, as I said. My parents lived there for 22 years. I was born 12 years after they moved to Lebanon. They escaped there. And I went through the 67 war. I was 6 years old, and I remember, the experience, a bit of trauma, of course, as we had to hide, and we had to not say publicly that we were Jewish, although our neighbors, they knew and everything. But we were quiet about it. We didn't know what was happening. We thought that that's it. Israel was being destroyed, as we were hearing a lot of fake news. We speak about fake news today. There was plenty of fake news then. And the fake news were saying Israel has been destroyed, so many planes down, so many soldiers killed, so on and so forth. We were afraid that the next Jews to be killed will be us. But thank God, after 6 days, we heard the real news. And the government of Lebanon, to be honest, did protect the Jewish community during that time. And so thank God nothing happened. But eventually, as Black September came, which is that September in, I think, 1970, in which there was a civil war in Jordan, and King Hussein expelled the PLO together with his chief chairman Arafat and all his terrorists. The Arab League forced Lebanon to accept them, to receive them, because no other Arab country will welcome them, because they know they don't want to welcome terrorists, they don't want to welcome agitators, insurgents. And that's exactly what happened. Once they came to Lebanon, we started seeing the protests, the manifestations, the political statements by them. We saw them in the street with the khaki, with weapons, and we knew that Lebanon was going to fall into a terrible civil war. And of course, the Jews will be the first ones to suffer from it. So my family decided to leave. Many of the Jewish families decided to leave. But again, we couldn't leave until a country would accept us. My father had 3 sisters in Mexico that they had left Syria in the 1940s, early 1940s. And my oldest brother, who was born in Aleppo and grew up in Lebanon, was able to go to Mexico because he married a Mexican citizen, and he settled in Mexico. And he was the one who was trying to get us to come to Mexico. Mexico was not accepting us at the beginning because we were refugees. Finally, there was around also 1970, my father was a rabbi in Lebanon, was a member of the Bet Din, the Jewish tribunal. There were 3 rabbis, and my father was one of those 3. And one day, his picture together with the other 3 rabbis, as they were performing a wedding, it was posted on many mosques throughout the country, with the caption under it saying, "These are the Zionist agents."
Oh my God!
Which of course was false, not true. But because they were Jewish, they were accused of that. They were helping Jews leave Lebanon. That's correct, but they were not Zionist agents. Not only that, but also that picture appeared in one of the most important magazines, like Time magazine of the U.S. It was the Time magazine of Lebanon. And here's the picture, if I could show it to you.
Of course.
If you could see it.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen the wedding with the talit and everything.
Yes. It was during the wedding. My father is this one with the hat.
Yeah.
So that picture appeared in that magazine, again, with a whole article, again, of the Zionist agents. And when you are in an Arab country, which is supposed to be at war with Israel, when you have your picture and you have a caption like this, you basically have a target on you. And anybody who can see you on the street can kill you with impunity. And so, of course, my father and the other 2 rabbis hid in their homes for 2-3 weeks until the government assured them that they will protect them. There won't be anything. So my mother took that picture with the article, sent it to Mexico, and pleaded with my brother to go to the Minister of the Interior of Mexico and tell him, if you don't allow my family to come in, they're going to be killed. They are political refugees, they are religious refugees, and they need to be safe. And that's what really got us to go to Mexico. So we emigrated from Lebanon to Mexico. I was 10 years old. I grew up in Mexico. Mexico was a beautiful Jewish community. They lived tranquilly, of course. And at age 18, I decided to emigrate to the United States because I wanted to study to become a physician. But I come from a religious family. My father is a rabbi. I come from really almost in every other generation of my Abadie family, there was a rabbi going back all the way to Spain. And so the only way I could become a doctor in Mexico is to study on Shabbat, on holiday, and to take tests, which I was not willing to do so. I heard that there was an institution called Yeshiva University in New York where I could become a doctor or any other profession that I want without having to compromise my religious beliefs. And so I immediately grabbed a suitcase and went to study in New York, and that's it. And the rest is history. I settled there. I got married. I became a doctor. I became a rabbi, and many other many other educational pursuits. And I settled, and I became, although I wanted to become as a doctor, as a profession, and a rabbi as a vocation, so to speak, it kind of switched over the years. Destiny had it that my real profession became the rabbinate, and my vocation became medicine. As I, at the same time as I was a rabbi of a congregation, even from the beginning, I was at the same time either studying medicine or studying to become a doctor or doing my internship, my residency, my subspecialty, and even as a private practitioner, I always maintained this dual profession, being a rabbi of a congregation, of a community, and a physician and a doctor.
I must say, Elie, it's very, very impressive. It's very, very impressive, and it's such a unique story. I wanted to ask something that I took from your story. Is there any type of maybe mixed feelings towards Lebanon? Because in one sense, the government kept you safe during '67, and then a few years later, you became targets. So what's the kind of relationship that you have with Lebanon and your feelings of your youth that you spent over there in Beirut?
Well, the political status in Lebanon is very, very well balanced, or at least it was very, very well balanced. The constitution is and the seats of powers are divided in a very delicate way by France, as France left Lebanon. And where they assigned the presidency to a Christian Maronite, the head of parliament, the speaker of parliament, is a Shiite Muslim, and the prime minister is a Sunni Muslim, and a minister of the interior is a Druze, and so that the constitution is very basically defined based on religion and ethnic groups or religious groups. And so that balance was maintained until Arafat came and brought with him 20 to 30,000 guerrillas, terrorists, which were all Muslims, and they tipped the balance. And when they tipped the balance, again, it's not a question of that they were Muslims or not, but they were terrorists. And so no matter what religion they would be, if they are terrorists, they're going to tip the balance to the group that they favor. And so that's exactly what happened in Lebanon. So, no, I'm very fond of the government of Lebanon when I left. They did protect us. They did try to maintain peace, freedom, liberty, freedom of expression. But you can't help but be worried about other religious or groups that lived there that we knew they did not like us as Jews. And so the fear was from them, not from the government. And then when the civil war came, is because of that tipping the balance, then unfortunately the civil war became a war of religions. Muslims against Christians. Even amongst the Muslims, it was Sunni against Shia and Shia against Sunni, and even amongst the Christians, unfortunately, it was Maronite against other Christians. And so, unfortunately, Lebanon became a tribal type of a country, and since then, I have to say, it has not really recovered. It has not recovered. So yes, I do remember Lebanon very fondly. I had a beautiful childhood. I think Lebanon. It used to be called the Switzerland of the Middle East, Beirut, the Paris of the Middle East, and it definitely is. But unfortunately, politically, it's not stable, and it's a shame. So for that, my heart does cry about it.
Do you think that those are mostly internal issues in Lebanon, or do you feel that Israel still faces a threat from Lebanon that they might decide to, attack Israel at some point in the future?
So unfortunately, the issues in Lebanon, even starting from the civil war, was not just an internal issue, because you have religious groups that are being manipulated by outsiders. More than anything else, nowadays, the civil war started in 1974. We're talking about now 40 years later, and more than that. But the status of Lebanon's political instability is because certainly you have foreign elements, namely Iran, that controls a huge paramilitary group, a terrorist group in itself, Hezbollah, who is basically controlling and maneuvering everything that happens in Lebanon. Some things behind the scenes, some things directly and without any shame. And so it is an internal. What looks to be an internal problem, but that is all controlled by outsiders. Turkey is also involved in there. Now, the danger to Israel is not from the Lebanese army, because the Lebanese army is extremely weak. It has the weapons that it uses probably still from the 50s and the 60s or the 70s. The danger to Israel is Hezbollah and only Hezbollah. And that's all. So Israel still faces that danger.
For sure, Elie. No, go ahead, Anna. Go ahead. Sorry, this is Anna. She's another member of the team, Elie.
Hi, Anna.
Yeah, I'm so sorry I came late, but it's a real pleasure getting to hear you speak. I was wondering, why did your family never consider going to Israel instead of, Mexico and all these other places?
Right. So again, I have been asked that question, and it was a question of legalities and technicalities. To leave Lebanon, we needed a country to take us in. Now, of course, Israel would have loved to take us in, but we can't go directly from Lebanon to Israel. In fact, to be able to leave Lebanon, you cannot say, I'm going to Israel. That would have been a crime. And so those people that went from Lebanon to Israel, they escaped. They escaped by boat at night from the shoreline of Lebanon, and Israel was waiting there for them. We did not want to do that. So we needed to go to a third country and then from there to Israel. But no third country would accept us because we had no citizenship of any form. We were refugees. So if we wanted to go to Cyprus, for example, Cyprus would have to accept us as refugees to allow us in, and then we would have to process whatever papers with Israel.
And
so when you is not a possibility for us.
And when your family fled Syria, they also didn't think about going to Israel, or for the similar reasons, or?
Well, again, it was a question of saving one's life. Aleppo is at the border of Turkey. So you had to cross completely the entire territory of Syria, then Lebanon, then Israel. Or you will have to go this way around Lebanon to be able to come to Israel from the Golan Heights. And at that time, it was a very, very dangerous road to take. Don't forget, it was 48. It was after the establishment of the state of Israel. There was war at the border, so it would be very, very difficult. Look, to cross from Syria to Lebanon, my father was almost killed, and that's between two Arab countries because he was Jewish, and so that's why it was not a possibility. Before 1948, in 45 or 44, you could have crossed that border, Syria-Israel. With caution, you could have crossed it because it was still...
That's how my granddad Ezra Sarder managed to make it to Israel from Aleppo, Elie. So
of course.
My granddad came in 45, and he did quite a similar route to your family. So from Aleppo, he was actually smuggled to Beirut, where he hid out in Beirut with the Jewish community for a while. And then from Beirut, he was actually smuggled back into Syria to the Damascus region, and then into the Golan Heights and down and into the British Mandate of Palestine.
Right. And was he single?
Yeah, he was only a 15-year-old kid. He left
Oh,
his whole
okay.
family behind, Elie,
Right.
unfortunately.
So that was easier, believe it or not, than taking a whole family with 3 children aged 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 2, and 4. And so,
Yeah.
yes,
Well,
much
children
more
always
easy.
make things more difficult.
Yeah. Another question is, I've heard that I have some Maronite Catholic friends from Lebanon, and they tend to be pretty, my experience, and maybe I'm generalizing, is they tend to be kind of anti-Israel. I'm wondering if maybe from your perspective of having, lived in Lebanon, why you think that is. That even, I understand why a lot of Muslims are very anti-Israel, but I don't understand why a lot of Christian Arabs are.
Well, unfortunately, living in Lebanon, or before in any Arab country during those times, you never knew who was your enemy, in a sense. You never knew who didn't like you. You had to assume everybody doesn't like you, and live your life quietly and look around whenever you walk. Why do Christians, Christian Arab, are against the Jews? Well, why are Christian Europeans were against the Jews during a period of 2,000 years? Unfortunately, Christians who are anti-Semitic or anti-Jews or anti-Israel, it's because of the doctrine that they consider the Jews either killed their God, even though that God was a Jew, or they are considered now God has banned them into hell, so to speak, and so therefore you could oppress them, demonize them. I mean, that for almost 2,000 years that was the doctrine of the church. Unfortunately, the Roman Catholic Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, and the Maronite are a type of Catholic, and so many of them may have, in a sense, nursed that anti-Semitism. However, Lebanese Maronites, some of them are anti-Israel or anti-Semites. Others were very friendly with Israel and very friendly with the Jews. In fact, the South Lebanese Army, the SLA, if you have heard about them,
Yeah.
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, were practical allies of Israel.
Yeah.
They received their weapons from Israel, and many of them received refugee status in Israel after Lebanon fell into the hands of Hezbollah, and many of them really live in Israel up until today. And so you have different type of people, and now more and more Christian Arabs are recognizing that Israel is not an enemy, that the Jews certainly are not. Just today, I spoke with a Catholic priest, Maronite Catholic priest from Lebanon, is a dear friend of mine. They're very much pro-Israel, pro-Jews, and so times have changed and attitudes have changed, especially after the Vatican II Council of 1961. That they recognize that the Jews are not that we need that. I'll tell you the truth. That Judaism is a bona fide religion, and we don't need the tipping of the hat by anybody else. We were the first religion, monotheistic religion, to exist. We received the revelation at Mount Sinai, so there's no need to. Hello.
That's okay, Elie. No worries.
It's fine.
You know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's okay. I did have a question, about the SLA. I was recently up in the north of Israel, near the Lebanese border, and I heard, a guy who used to serve in the IDF talking with his Druze friends over there at a restaurant. And what I got from the gist of the conversation was that the IDF reservist felt like Israel let down the SLA and actually in some way, by retreating from the security line in 2000, kind of, left them on their own, left them to fend for themselves type of thing, Elie. What do you think about that whole situation when Israel retreated from the security line?
Well, look. So first, let me say a disclaimer. I'm not a military expert, nor a political expert, but I can see why they would have been upset or felt that they were abandoned. The retreat from Lebanon by Ehud Barak, I think it was very premature, very quick. Did not consult on part of the allies in Lebanon, and it was not done in a process in a way that that would have been safe for Israel or for the people left there. That's the only thing I could say. Now, I was not at the seat of the prime minister nor at that meeting to see what other things that I couldn't see or I can't see that made them make that decision. But I understand those feelings of not of betrayal, but of feeling that they have been abandoned by Israel.
Abandonment, yes. That's a better word for it. That's a better word for it, definitely.
Yes.
That is a good
Um,
one.
now,
I'm just curious.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Anna.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I wanted to ask Elie because I've seen a few of the podcasts that he's done with interfaith dialogue, where he's sat down with, like you said, a Maronite priest and maybe a Shia imam and a Sunni imam. And personally, Elie, to see this, I mean, it warmed my heart really to see religious leaders sitting there together and building that interfaith dialogue. And it's something that I think we're lacking here in Israel. We're really lacking it, and we really need religious leaders from all sides to step up to the plate and say, okay, this is how we're going to lead our flock. Not in the bad way, not in a wrong way, but in a way that builds understanding and acceptance for different religions. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got into that type of work and why you find it so important?
Well, let me say first something that might be humoristic, but it has a lot of truth in it. That I think Israel, first and foremost, amongst the Jewish religious groups, should get together and have an interdenominational dialogue.
Amen. 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 Amen.
Between the Hasidim and the non-Hasidim, and even amongst the Hasidim, all the different groups, and amongst the Litvak, and amongst the Lita'im, and so on, and amongst the Kippas Ruga, I think amongst them they should have a interreligious dialogue.
I agree.
Right?
I mean, that's
before
how
they
you start the
could
next civil war.
before they could look outside and see what kind of dialogue we can have with other religions. But put that aside for a second. Look, I believe that religions in their essence are good, are respectful of the sanctity of life of everyone, the belief of one God, the sanctity of private property, and freedom of religion. I believe that the religions by their essence are like that. However, representative of those religions, or the religious leadership of some of those religions, and of course not all of them, but many of them throughout history, may have distorted their religion and presented it in such a way to benefit themselves personally, or their tribe, or their political position, and they forced their religion upon other people, and many of them upon penalty of death. We know the Islam had the sword representing that, and we know Christianity had the Inquisition and the auto da fe and so on and so forth, and the burning at the stake. And so, but I believe that that's not the fault of the religion itself, but that's the fault of the religious representative, who many of them may have been completely wrong, and may have been selfish, and may have been misrepresented the religion and abused their position of power. We know that. And so whenever I find a representative of any religion who is open-minded, who understands that he worships his religion the way it should be, and I have the freedom to worship my religion the way it should be, and another representative of another religion has that right. So once we have that, those parameters well delineated, that I respect you for the religion that you have and you respect me for what I have, and now let's see what common denominators we have that we could help each other and support each other and try to understand each other. And that's my foray into the interdenominational or interreligious dialogue that I have been doing for over now 20, 30 years.
Wow.
It is people that represent their religion, but what I believe they represent it properly and correctly, and are willing to extend their hand in friendship and understanding. When two people speak to each other, they can understand each other. When they learn more about each other, about their religion, they can respect that, right? That doesn't mean I'm becoming a different religion. I still respect my own, I respect their own. And once we do that, we see the commonalities that we have as humans, as children of God, as people who we are here to show the beauty of God and the beauty of religion and peacefulness of religion and the helpfulness of religion, not the divisiveness of religion, not the hatefulness of religion, and not the imposition of religion. So these are the people that I have met with, these are the people that I have conversed with, and these are the people that have been building bridges now for, as I said, 20 to 30 years.
Amazing. And I was wondering if, first of all, to what degree do you feel you've been successful in achieving your aims with those kinds of dialogues? And also, what exactly are the aims of a more, let's say, interdenominational dialogue? What would we be trying to achieve in having all the different denominations of, let's say, Judaism? Because we all, I think, agree that there's a lot of splintering and fracturing between the different denominations in Judaism. So what would we be trying to achieve in a dialogue? Just less fighting, less infighting?
Well, to your first question, did I achieve? You can never achieve completely what you want. It's a process. Do I have, it's not that I have achieved, but is our people, or did the world start achieving this common understanding? I would say definitely yes. Religious wars are very limited now to locations, and in many places now we understand each other. We call each other when there's a problem. We try to resolve an issue. So have we completely fulfilled our goal and mission? Absolutely not. Are we in that process and on the path to doing so? Yes, we are. More and more people are joining this dialogue. More and more people are joining this path. I would say the entire Arabian Gulf region is moving towards that goal, and beautifully, and really beautifully, in a way that it shows the respect for other religions. There is dialogue, there is common understanding. We invited each other to our homes, and we meet their families, and we have a lot of common things that we could accomplish. So yes, that process is taking place, and I am much more hopeful than I was before. And I believe that we're getting there. We're getting there slowly, we're getting there. Now, that doesn't mean that, unfortunately, there's still no areas, even in that region or in the world, that still has some religious extremism, radicals who still spew hatred and incite people to violence. I mean, we see it in the United States itself. Don't go that far. We see it in Europe itself. So there's still, so that means we have a lot of work ahead of us. Now, what do we achieve, or do we want to achieve in interdenominational dialogue? Is a common understanding. We want to achieve a peaceful modus vivendi, that we could all exist together, respect each other's differences, and live and let live. I would say live and let live.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Yeah, if I could just interject for a quick second, because I have to go very soon. I'm sorry, everybody. But there's two questions that I've been wanting to ask. I was just trying to formulate them. First off, this one's not really related to anything. It's just my curiosity. Which form of branch of Judaism would you like? Are you a part of? You are Reformed, Conservative, Orthodox?
I'm a Sephardic Jew.
Okay, fair enough.
None of the above.
Yeah, none of the above.
And
Whatever.
I can tell you a story. I founded the Edmund J. Safra Synagogue in 2002. I was the rabbi there for 17 years. And we used to have a lot of Jewish group coming and visiting us. And I would give them an introduction and so on. And I always was asked, is this an Orthodox, Conservative, or Reformed synagogue? And I would say, it's a Sephardic synagogue. He says, no, we know that, but is it a conservative? It's a Sephardic. It's a Sephardic, but they said, no, we know that. I said, because Sephardic is the answer. Sephardic means Sephardic Jews never, ever divided into Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, Reconstructionist, Deconstructionist, Humanist, whatever color and state. Like the Ashkenazi Jewry divided. We never did. When you say Sephardic, that's the definition. What is a Sephardic Jew? Meaning is that Jew that is part of a group of people who believe that tradition is tradition, right? That when it comes to synagogue, when it comes to communal events, when it comes to official Jewish event, they are all done according to tradition that has been going on for over 2,000 years. Now, individual Jews can be observant or non-observant, can be believers or non-believers, can go to synagogue on Shabbat walking or can go by car or whatever way they want to go. That's between them and God, right? But when they come to synagogue, it's all done traditionally. When they have a wedding, it's done traditionally. When they have a bar mitzvah, it's traditional. What they do in their own home, that's their own religious conscience between them and God. Some people eat kosher at home and don't eat kosher outside. Some people eat kosher at home and outside, but outside they don't eat meat. They may eat fish, so on and so forth. That's what a Sephardic Jew. We unify the Jewish people. We don't ascribe denomination how religious you are. You're ultra religious, you're Orthodox, ultra Orthodox, or you conservative. We don't assign those titles and denomination. We are all one Jewish nation. Each individual can be whatever they want. They come to synagogue and official religious worship, it's all tradition. So that's a definition by itself. So if you ask me what kind of a Jew I am, Orthodox Jew says, I'm a Sephardic Jew.
All right. Now my next question, is going to be the last one before I have to go. This one's more just to bring it back to Lebanon, because I had Lebanese friends here in America. I went to school with them. And in my experience, I find Lebanese people to be more liberal than other Arabs of other places. I've met Egyptians and Yemenites, and my Lebanese friends always seem to be the most open-minded when it came to just different concepts or learning about things or accepting them and like just being open to like learning about other people's experiences. And I don't know, that's just what it seemed to me. And I was wondering if was that what it was like for you when you were living there? Were the people still fairly open, or is that just like a thing of the younger generation?
No, it's absolutely. I mean, don't forget, again, Lebanon was under French mandate. The European influence in Lebanon was significant, culturally, politically, socially. And so the liberalism of Europe did find fertile ground in Lebanon. I mean, Beirut, the Lebanese shore was considered like the French Riviera. As I said, Beirut was the Paris of the Middle East. Lebanon was the Switzerland of the Middle East. So yes, definitely Lebanese people are much more open-minded, much more liberal. They have friends from different religions because Lebanon is made up of so many religions. They speak many languages. And so, yes, Lebanon was such a country and still is, I may say that, even though the political echelons and the Hezbollah group is a very religious, radical group. But I would say the majority of the Lebanese people, the true Lebanese people, are, yes, liberal, open-minded, and very European oriented.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to have to go.
All right, take it easy,
I'll have
Jared.
to see y'all later, guys.
I have to go as well because I have class.
Okay, Anna, thanks for being with us.
You both soon.
Thank you. It
We'll
was
see
lovely
you
to meet
soon.
you.
Yeah, it was great talking to you.
Elie,
Bye.
I wanted to get into some of your work out in the Gulf now, because that's, actually, it's amazing actually how we met. Maybe our viewers will be interested to hear. So I saw Elie on I-24 News, I think it was, before you were heading out to Dubai. And I messaged you on Instagram, right? Like, oh, hey, good luck with the new position out there. And Elie got back to me and asked me, oh, thank you very much. And said, oh, what's your name, by the way? And I said, Amir Sarder. And when I mentioned my last name, Elie made the connection that we're actually, I don't know how to go back that far, but maybe fourth or fifth cousins. So my dad's actually put in the comments here, hi, Elie, my name is Ofer Sarder or Sardar. We are related to my auntie Margot. So it's really fascinating that social media, because I've been quite against social media, Elie. I don't have Facebook, and I hadn't had Instagram until this year. So I'm kind of very grateful for the social media making that connection and hearing about you and some of your work. We also have another panel member who I really want you to meet as well, Elie. He's just literally managed to join us. His name is Aboud Cohen. He's going to be with us any second now. It'd be great to introduce you. Hey, Aboud.
Hi. Yes. Hey. Hello, Mr. Rabbi Ellie. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Aboud. How are you?
Amazing. I really didn't want to miss this, so I'm glad I could kind of be in time, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
you just about made it.
Yeah, I don't want you to go in through the, like, you don't have to introduce yourself from the beginning, but what can you tell me, like, in a few words about your work, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course. So first, let me answer Amir about the Sardar family. My grandmother was a Sardar. My mother's mother.
Sounds like your family's nickname. Family's name, I mean.
Yeah.
Amir.
That's the
of course.
Okay.
And the Sardars are Leviim, are Levites. And so many of them changed their last name from Sardar to Levi when they got to Israel. And so I have my aunts are married to their cousins, the Levis, but they're Sardar. Margot Sardar, who lives in New York, she is my mother's first cousin. And so definitely we are second cousins or third cousins that way. So yes, Sardar it is still a very well-known rabbinic family in Syria, in Aleppo, Syria. There were rabbis, there were mohalim, they did Milah, there were sofrim, they wrote Sifrei Torah, and Rabbi Yaakov Sardar was a very, very well-known. They were shohatim, they did shechita, slaughterers. They were hazanim, so they had all the aspect of religious ritual. The Sardar family, very famous one, and very known family. Now, as to your question, Aboud, what am I doing? So I'm now the senior rabbi of the Jewish Council of the Emirates, the Jewish community in the Emirates, the United Arab Emirates, and at the same time, I arrived there in November. Although I had visited the Emirates twice before, once 2.5 years ago, as I went to see the small community that it existed then. It was not an official community. It was not an underground community. It had the tacit approval of the government, but it was not a public knowledge for many people until the Abraham Accords. But the United Arab Emirates declared 2019 as the year of tolerance. That year, they welcomed Pope Francis and also Imam Tayyib from the Al-Azhar University, considered to be the head imam of the Sunni Muslim religion. They both signed in Abu Dhabi what's known as the Declaration of Human Fraternity Declaration. Basically declaring that we are all humans, We all have our own religion and we worship our own religion, but we all live in peace and harmony, tolerance and coexistence. And they declared 2019 as the year of tolerance, and they published a book called the Book of Tolerance. In it, the UAE featured all the religions or the communities of faith in the United Arab Emirates. And one of them, of course, was the Jewish community, was featured there very extensively and with pride and everything. So I went to visit that community exactly that year, and I established connection with them and a relationship with the community. And then I visited again a year later, and that time was to bring a Sefer Torah, a Torah scroll with the Sephardic case, beautiful Sephardic case. That Torah scroll was dedicated by a Jewish American businessman who has been doing business with that region for over 30 years. That Torah was dedicated in memory of the late Sheikh Zayed. May he rest in peace, who is the founding father of the UAE, of the Emirates. Yeah. We presented the Torah scroll in memory of Sheikh Zayed to his son, His Highness the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, in his palace. And I established a relationship with him, a connection with him about it. We spoke Arabic. We actually reminisced about Lebanon.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Yes. What languages do you know other than Arabic?
Hebrew, English, French, Spanish. I could maneuver a little bit in Italian and Portuguese.
Wow. Did you ever came across maybe like ancient Hebrew or maybe you looked about Samaritan Hebrew?
Well, ancient Hebrew, you're talking about biblical Hebrew or rabbinic Hebrew, Mishnaic Hebrew. Of course, I mean, that I know that from little kid because that's what we learned. Yeah. And so we spoke in Arabic and we established a rapport. And as I said, we were reminiscing about Hamdoun, which was a beautiful resort city on the mountains of Lebanon, that many people from the Gulf, from the Arabian Gulf, would come to summer because it's very, very hot in the Gulf area. And so Lebanese mountains were a beautiful summer resorts. And my father was the rabbi of that city. And so we reminisced about our infancy in that town. So that was the second time I went. Once the Abraham Accord were signed, the community was asked to register officially and now become an official religion in the country. And but they told them, you need to have a rabbi. You need to have a rabbi to do so. And so my name came up. They already knew me. The government already knew me. I had a rapport, and so they asked me if I would be, if I want to take that challenge. I thought about it for a few days. I said, absolutely. I think we are at a crossroad of history, and if I'm being asked to face that challenge, maybe it's something that's coming from high above. So that challenge, and I went there in November, and then since November, I have been establishing connection, making the presence of the community and working on behalf of the community, so to speak.
All right.
Incredible.
I also wanted to ask, like, when you said small communities, I also come from a small religious minority that lives like half in Nablus, near Nablus on Har Grizim, and half in Cholon.
So you were known as the Shamranim?
Exactly.
The Shomronim, the Samaritans.
Yeah, Hebrew and Shomronim, Samaritans
right, of course.
In English. And have you studied something about them? I'm really curious. I'm sure you know that the amount of information is really small.
Yeah, we just celebrated Shavuot as far as I
He did indeed. That's why Aboud, he wasn't available on Saturday. That's exactly
right.
It.
That was Shavuot, of course. Yeah, I know that. So are you? Your last name is a Kohen. Are you a Kohen in the Samaritan group?
So basically, we have like what's left to the Samaritans. They are descendants of two tribes, or three. The Levite tribe and the two sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Menashe. So if you are from the Levite tribe, you are just from the Cohen family. Your last name will be Cohen.
I see.
And that doesn't mean that you are a Chazan or a cantor.
Right.
Although my grandfather, he is the Kohen Gadol, the high priest.
Oh, so he is.
So he is. That doesn't mean I'm in line. It's like we take the oldest of the Kohen family. And
Right.
There's 300 Kohens in the community.
300 Kohanim.
Yes.
How many of the Samaritans now exist?
Like 800, right?
Like 830. Actually, we had a baby yesterday. So
Congrats.
Mabruk.
Thank you.
Mabruk, mabruk, abud.
Very nice. So only 831 people. That includes.
Yeah.
That's
like,
all over the world. All over the world.
Yeah, I can't say I'm following the exact number, although it's definitely very exciting when we have a baby, especially baby girls, because we have much less women than men, so we try to balance it out.
Right.
But you were asking?
No, so I was saying, is that all over the world? Have you had people that have emigrated and they continue with their religion?
Here's the thing: we really don't know. There might be some Samaritans that live outside, but until now, no one came and told us we've been Samaritans and we've been living and we've been believing in Mount Gerizim, and we have the Samaritan Torah. No one came.
No one came. Do you know if anybody from that group emigrated outside?
So there might be, again, but we never been contacted, although there are some people around the world from different backgrounds, Jewish, Christian, even Muslim, I believe, knew about the Samaritan community and converted, or just they are following the traditions.
Now you mentioned
some of them are very close friends.
Yeah, you mentioned in Holon also there are some of them living now there. They left Har Gerizim, Mount of Gerizim.
True, yeah. They basically found job opportunities in Jaffa, and slowly they kind of moved from Jaffa to Holon.
Right.
We don't have any missionary. We don't really kind of go out there and invite people
right.
to Samaritanism.
Like us, yeah, we're the same.
Right. So do you see some of them, so to speak, assimilate or intermarry with the rest of the Jewish people?
So it already kind of happened, but if you are a Samaritan who is about to marry a non-Samaritan, the person you will marry, if you want to stay living in the community of the Samaritan community, she or he has to convert. And until now, really no one did it. That they stayed Samaritans and they left. I mean, they might, I don't know. I know that there are 8 or 9 who left the community in the past 100 years.
Wow. So that's
some of them for love relationships.
That's a very good number. Yeah.
It's not a lot, right? I mean,
it's not a lot.
There's a good reason why.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting. Very well.
Yeah.
Well,
so
Elie,
I invite
next time
you to come here for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Aboud.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I would love to definitely give you a tour here. It's a very there used to be a lot of tourists, like 20,000 tourists a year. Like that's before Corona hit. It's a really interesting place for many people. It's a biblical site, definitely, and it's beautiful views also, and even politically, it's kind of interesting because we have 3 passports here. I'm not sure if you ever heard about it.
Well,
we have Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian. So.
Right, I imagine. So, are you technically, your territory is under the PA or under Israel?
I mean, technically, it's kind of both. I mean, they consider our area as Area B.
Oh, B. So
not A and not C. So
right.
Yeah. So you'll come here with maybe an Israeli license car, and you'd also see a lot of Palestinian license plates, of course.
Right.
A lot of them here come to pick up their mail. We have like a nice business going on that allows you to bring your mail faster because you don't rely on the Palestinian delivery, but we can go to Palestinian areas to bring them the Israeli service. It's kind of, we're really the link and the bridge between the 2 nations.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have like pretty famous alcohol and tahini. And we speak بنحكي عربي منيح.
And you speak also Aramaic? You speak Aramaic?
Yeah, we speak Aramaic, but we don't really speak it every day. We use it in our prayers mostly, and our poems and songs. We learn it at the age of 5 almost. So it's like, Barashit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. We say, Barashet bara eluem it eshamem with aris. Or like when like lich lichame as the chaume we say lik lak mi yarsak min muledetak. Some people say it sounds like, I think it's Temani. Yiddish?
Yemenite.
Yemenite.
Yeah.
It does sound a bit like that, but we feel that Har Gerizim is a very good breeding ground for these kinds of peacemaking dialogues and interfaith dialogues, because we can go there all and meet, and it's a neutral zone almost. So it's a great place to hold events where Israelis and Palestinians can sit down, have grassroots level conversations.
Definitely.
And even watch like the Samaritan festivals. You know, you come here, we invite officials from both countries, and you know, they sit next to each other and they watch a historical thing that is connected to both people. You know,
right.
Religious.
Definitely very, very interesting. Yes, next time I'll go to Israel, I would love to make a visit. Definitely.
For sure. Elie, this is a little bit off topic, but I've been wondering this now for a while, because the UAE is so close to Bahrain, and Bahrain has a Jewish community, quite a small one. Have you managed to make it over there and meet any of the locals?
So of course. Actually, I was when I was telling you that I arrived to Dubai, to the Emirates 7 months ago in November. And I started working, and then by in fact 2 weeks after I arrived to Dubai, I made a trip to Bahrain to light the first Hanukkah candle for the Jewish community. I was invited. It is a very nice small Jewish community that have been existing since 140 years. Their origin is mostly from Iraq and India, and so Iraq and Iran. And so the Jews are very well Bahrainis, integrated in the economy, society. They have members in the National Assembly. They had a Jewish ambassador to Washington, Huda Nunu, who's a dear friend of mine. So they're very integrated in the society. So together with the Nunu family, Huda, and Abe Nunu, who was the elder of the Nunu families there, and several representatives of Jewish communities from the 6 Gulf region, we created the Association of Gulf Jewish Communities, and I'm the rabbi of that organization. It's the AGJC. You could Google us, AGJC, Association of Gulf Jewish Communities. We have had now many events, holiday events, speakers, Zoom events. We tweet and everything. So I basically try to harness the presence of Jewish communities in the Gulf. And some places are not full-fledged official communities, but they're Jewish members, individuals.
Is it this website?
Yeah, no, that's the American Jewish Committee.
Oh, and you said AGC?
AGJC.
AGJC.
Yeah,
oh, sorry. That's it.
GJC, yes.
Something like that. Is it Gulf Jewish?
There you go.
There you go.
Association of Gulf Jewish Communities, correct. That's the one.
Incredible.
Right. Give them a visit, guys. This is the website. Really
yes. And so, as you can see, the logo is the beautiful Andalus star, which was my contribution to that, and Hayat. And yes, so we have harnessed the Jewish presence in the Gulf.
Shabbat times in different Arabic countries. That's beautiful.
That's so cool.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
I really didn't know that people or like Arabic people that speak Arabic have a lot of connection with Judaism. I don't know why I wasn't aware of that.
You mean Jews or non-Jews?
Jews that speak Arabic. I didn't know that there's.
Luca, let me take this opportunity then to mention that there were over 1 million Jews living in 10 Arab countries.
Wow. Okay.
For
I knew there's a lot.
Not centuries, millennia. For millennia. You're talking about Iraq. Jews have been living there for 2,600 years. Syria. Likewise, Lebanon,
and Yemen, I believe.
Yemen, Aden, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algiers, Morocco.
Same as Samaritans, actually. Samaritans lived in Syria and Iraq and all those.
Of course.
In Egypt.
So you talk about 1 million Jews that unfortunately after 1948, like my family in Syria, many of them were persecuted or expelled or imprisoned. Each country did a different thing to the Jewish community. And now out of those 1 million Jews that they were, like I said, expelled, imprisoned, had to escape, persecuted, you have in Arab countries, I would say less than in Arab countries, you have less than 4,000 people. 4,000 Jews out of 1 million Jews. So you're talking about what they call ethnic cleansing of the Jewish communities that happened, unfortunately, after 1948 in many of those countries.
Yeah, and it's not mentioned enough, Elie. It's really not mentioned enough, and it's a huge part of our history. And we hear a lot of fake narratives, and it's just fake news, like you said earlier, about all Jews being from Europe and go back to Europe and this kind of nonsense, which I find very, very difficult to hear. But I think your way of explaining it is just way simpler. Guys, there were 1 million Jews in Arab lands, and you're right, there was an ethnic cleansing that happened there over the time. I mean, I know we had families stuck in Syria until the deal that Clinton did with Hafez.
I remember that very well. And that's when I met my Sardar family when they came to New York.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's the youngest. Is that Chaim? Was it Chaim?
Chaim Sardar? No, I mean, there were Zaki Sardar, and there were Yaakov Sardar. There were Rafi Sardar, of course, many of them. There's Chaim Sardar also. So yes,
What does it actually mean, the name? What's the translation?
So that's an interesting question. We have been trying to find out what that means, Sardar. It could be either a Turkish name or a Rashet Tevot. We really don't know exactly what the name means. Sar in Hebrew means that he left. Dar means he inhabits. Sardar. Yeah. So they're Leviim, so it's possible that it means those Leviim, those Levites, that they have their own. The Torah ascribes the Leviim areas to live around cities, around Dar. They lived in a place, but they're Sar. They have moved. It's not in the city; it's outside the city. It's possible that's the meaning. Yes.
Do you know? Could there be a connection? I don't know. This is just something that I randomly looked up, and through our history, we know that we came from the Portuguese area from the expulsion. There's a town in Turkey called Sardis, and there's a beautiful ancient synagogue there. And I thought Sardis, Sardar, maybe we passed through there on the way to Syria.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a famous Sardis, but there's also in Italy Sardinia. There is a whole region of Sardinia. Could they be that they got their last name from there? It's possible. So maybe I'll leave it to you, Amir, to research that.
It's interesting because we have.
مش مشكلة, Elie.
It's interesting because we have like a lot of families in Nablus with different names, and by the names you can kind of by the family names you can kind of tell what the family worked in or was famous for, all around the world. But technically, these are famous here.
Right. We have that also. We have last names by profession. We have last names.
Right. It's global.
It's all, yes.
You think about it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I mean, we could stay here talking for hours, Elie, but I know you're a very busy man. You've got lots of things to do. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on our show and sharing your story with us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I wish you, all the best when you return over to the Gulf. I really hope I'll be able to make it over for a visit. I have to finish my studies and stuff like that first, but as soon as I'll be done, I'll try and make it over for a visit.
My
Yes.
pleasure. My pleasure. Would love to see all of you and welcome you and host you in the UAE and in the Gulf,
Love to.
and show you with your own eyes how we live and how we are welcomed and we are embraced and we are really with open arms.
Amazing. I'm excited to be able to visit the Gulf and Dubai and everything like that. I'm really excited. So thank you for the invitation. And likewise, don't forget we have really good tahini over here if you like traditional Arabic food. So
definitely do so.
Yeah, I definitely will vouch for the tahini, Elie. It's wow, top notch.
I remember, the Israelis always claim fame for the falafel, and I would tell them that's an Arabic food. I'm sorry to say, but we ate falafel in Lebanon. It was delicious, and so on and so forth. So it's not an Israeli, and the tahini is also not an Israeli. I have to say, we have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
And I remember in the 70s, I had falafel in Hebron. It was one of the most delicious falafel ever that I have ever had.
Nice.
And so, and that was falafel made out of ful, not out of chickpeas, not out of hummus, right?
Yeah, I think that's an Egyptian thing, right? They do it with
correct.
the
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Incredible.
But I think that the full falafel is softer, is tastier, and it's less dry, which I like. That's
I'm getting hungry thinking about falafel now.
Yeah. As they say, al ta'am ba'al rayah in la yitvakeah. So
yeah.
بالضبط. يوفي.
All right.
One last question.
Take it from here.
I hear your accent, your English accent sounds more English than Israeli.
Right, yeah, you're 100% right there, Elie. You're 100% right. So I was basically born in Israel. My dad married a British.
I thought
British lady.
He's talking about Amir. I thought he was asking me.
Yeah.
For a second.
So I was raised in the UK from the age of 1, roughly, and I moved back to Israel when I was 18. I spent 5-6 years over here. Then I left Israel for a while. I traveled around the world. I was in Australia, Ireland for a little bit. But nothing, after 2 winters in Ireland, I just had to come back to Israel. It was, it was too much, too cold, too rainy, too windy. And I've always been someone who said, I won't let the weather affect me. I can live anywhere, no problem. It's not going to be an issue. The second winter got to me. That was it.
Your accent is more American, actually.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I grew up watching a lot of American cartoons, like 5 hours a day or something.
Well,
and then I taught English at a company.
Oh, okay.
So it's like conversations 5 hours a day.
Right.
Something like that.
Yes.
So it was nice.
And lastly, Ken, your English is from?
Manchester. I'm also from England. I was born and raised there. My father's from Netanya.
I can hear it. Yeah. What's your last name, Ken?
Well, speaking of occupational last names, my last name's Kowalski, which is blacksmith.
Blacksmith. There was in Manchester, there was a very, very significant Jewish community, and some of them were actually from Aleppo, Syria. There's until now a Sephardic Jewish community, much smaller, but the origin of that community was from Aleppo, Syria. In fact, my grandfather, the one who was married to a Sardar, right? My mother's mother, my mother's father, was in Manchester for like maybe 8 years. Exporting to Syria British textiles. That was his business, British textiles.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Manchester, when you bring a Manchester textile, it's the best. It was like the
industrial. Yeah, that was it. It was all industrial. But yes, I went to school, King David High School. There was a lot of also Sephardic Jews there, so I'm sure the majority were from Aleppo.
Yes, correct. So I know about that community very. In fact, I gave a Zoom interview several months ago with Rabbi Levy, who's the rabbi of the community in Manchester. I did.
Mm-hmm. Wow, amazing!
Incredible.
You're a learned man.
Definitely. So, I mean, Elie, most people would be satisfied with being just a rabbi or just a doctor or physician, but you have to do both,
Yeah, I do both, and I do a lot of other things. Yes, I like to be able to do a lot of things.
Multi-talented.
A Renaissance man.
That's it. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Elie. You're welcome back anytime you want, and you have some time for us. It'd be fantastic to have you on again, and hopefully we'll be seeing you in person.
Yes, absolutely, with pleasure.
We would love to.
Thank you.
Would you like me to take it from here, Amir?
Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Hope you had an amazing day. Don't forget to leave a like, leave a sub if you haven't already. Share it with your friends. Help us spread this very good cause, and hope to see you next time. Bye.